All right, we'll get started. Happy Monday morning in Los Angeles to everybody. Hope everybody had a good weekend. Pretty excited for this one here today. We have some great guests here. We have Alun from LAOS Network joining us. We have Tomas from Origin Trail. Of course, we have JD doing technical analysis for us like every week, and Altcoin Jim as well to bring us some interesting perspectives. So it's been a little bit of an interesting weekend. JD, I know you've been looking at the charts. We'll probably start with Polkadot here. Last week, you were telling us you weren't a buyer at some of these high prices, but maybe we can take a look at what you see in the charts now, and we'll get into some of these other topics. But let's start with the Polkadot chart, JD. If you don't mind sharing your screen, I'll bring it up here. What are you seeing right now?
Yeah. Okay. So right now, so here for a dot, we see a bearish divergence here. So the price is going up while the oscillators, both the RSI and the SRSI, is going down, right? So that's a potential bearish divergence right there. My targets, my buy targets is around this orange box right here. As you can see from last week, I was posting these resistance lines right here, and we actually wick on the first one and got re-ejected from it, right? So looks like the Bears may take in control just for, I don't know, maybe a few weeks, unless we can break this line. If a candle body breaks above this resistance line, we're going up to this next target, which is around $18. So other than that, if we can't break this line right here, this orange box will be my next buying target for a dot.
Perfect. All right, thank you, JD. It's interesting to watch how you do it each week. But yeah, I remember last week you were telling us, don't, look to, maybe hold your stuff. And now we see this collapse. We were talking about the fear and greed. So it is fun to watch how some of these things work. And I know some people like for the technical analysis, some people come here for a little bit of the news as well. So I'm happy that we have some of our guests here today. And Tomas, I'll start with you. I just put out a video on your new white paper, the 3.0 white paper, which is very interesting. Not the video so much, but the what you guys are doing as far as this concept of AI as we know it now with retrieval augmented generation, and your guys' concept of decentralizing that. But I think what I found a little bit interesting, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think when we talk about, you have a centralized something and we go to decentralize something, it almost sounds like it's taking the place. But I think what you guys are doing, these things are going to kind of work together in this kind of symbiotic relationship.
Yeah. Hi everyone, and yeah, Jason, thanks for putting out that video. I think that was that no need to sell it short. I think it was very interesting. I think it covered the topics of the that were present in the white paper very nicely. Yeah, kind of like zooming out a little bit, I think you're correct in saying that what we're seeing is really a convergence. So we're seeing a convergence of, and I think it's quite a historical, or what we believe it's quite a historical convergence of the maturity or the development of something as almost feels omnipresent like the internet, something that's a very powerful force seen, let's say, in the last 2 years, at least in the mainstream space. So that with the artificial intelligence and the maturity level that we're seeing also from the crypto industry, and what the core belief is that this convergence is not only something that it's kind of like nice to have to happen, but it really needs to happen if we want to have somewhat of a happy path, technological happy path in the future, where we can really leverage and benefit from having the best that all of these technologies have to offer, rather than having the worst of what's possible. So that's really the intention behind the white paper, which speaks about this convergence of internet, crypto, and artificial intelligence, was to introduce the verifiable internet for AI, which is a concept that describes how we can have this happy path kind of happen. And like you see, even in the title itself, you won't spot Origin Trail front and center, because we feel that this is again the in this zeitgeist, in this moment of time, a necessity that we have to, even as a humanity, have to aspire for and get to, if we want to see not only each of those technologies reach their own optimum, but really together unlock much more value together. So we've seen, artificial intelligence having this, especially the generative part of the artificial intelligence. McKinsey putting out some big numbers around 4.3 trillions, and again, this is just the generative AI part. What we're seeing, or what we believe is on the tables, if we are pairing together the artificial intelligence, the generative artificial intelligence, together with what the decentralized world has to offer. And here I will lean more strongly towards the Origin Trail, because it is really very nicely positioned to be a strong representative of the decentralized space for AI, with the decentralized knowledge graph technology. Now, those of you who maybe had a little bit of a prior knowledge into the space of the knowledge graphs, you might kind of see a one bulb coming up immediately anyways, saying that the knowledge graphs are already today a very good substrate for the artificial intelligence because they offer very nicely structured data. So they are actually almost considered one methodology, which is called more symbolic artificial intelligence, compared to just the neural artificial intelligence when we're talking about the generative AI. And we can almost picture them like two halves of the brain, whilst the right side is going to be more creative, going to be more loose. That's going to be your generative part, where you ask your chat GPT and it just comes up with something, because by definition it's generative, so it's generating stuff. And then on the left hand side, we're going to have our more knowledge graphs, where we have deterministic stuff, and that's going to be rooted in some sort of structured data. Well, we're really kind of augmenting this symbiosis and these relationships by offering the decentralized knowledge graph, which today is in its sixth iteration, and it really offers the potential to have a much to have the vision of the verifiable internet come to fruition, because we're not only kind of pairing up the left side of the brain with the right one, but we're really doing this in a trusted way. And this is where the big things start to happen, because not only we have now verifiable knowledge or verifiable information, so that means that we have something that was published, can be actually identify that it hasn't been tampered with, but we also have information provenance, so we know where something has came from. So it's not only that, you mentioned RAG before, retrieval augmented generation points to a document. No, it points to the document, man. This goes directly to what Jason said about something. So, and if I trust Jason, I want to have that assurance that really, when my AI agent is like trading on behalf of me on the basis of what Jason put out, I want to make sure that this really is the Jason input. It's not just some random guy on the internet saying something. So it's not just about having the ability to point to something, but we need to have the ability to point to the actual source that we want to base our decision making on when we're using artificial intelligence. So that's why this convergence is just so incredibly powerful when we're putting together the DKG, when we're putting together artificial intelligence and the internet. And I'll now kind of go just towards the tail end of which isn't really meant as because it's an equal part of importance, and it's very much what the decentralized side kind of brings to the table is the incentivization. So today the incentives are inherently rooted, especially within the AI space. They are rooted in just companies, right? So it's going to be equity value, or it's going to be pursuing some sort of a really, how to say it, it's just like it's very, who's going to get there first, it's like a race, who's going to scrape most data, who's going to infringe potentially on some IP rights. In the meantime, don't really care about it, just run with it. I think it was a few days ago we saw the squirming interview from Sora, but it was very hard for the representative of OpenAI to respond where the data came from. And by definition, it's like they go and they just try to amass a lot of what's available on the internet in order to produce these types of AI models. So what we're proposing in the verifiable internet future is we flip this on the head. We say, you know what, knowledge creation should be an incentivized process, but it should be guided by the community of invested participants. So they should be the ones that make an effort to learn or to decide of what really should be the next topic, the next field, what is worthy of getting knowledge mined, which topic should be at the forefront of the current moment. And maybe that can change over time, but this should be a communal effort, and it shouldn't be just a kind of like a one-man decision or one-woman decision or even one company decision to say, this or that way. So it should be in a way participatory, and it should be more democratic. And we are very, very strong proponents that by having incentives in how we're creating knowledge, we're going to really then be able to propel this convergence of the internet, of crypto, and of AI to a much more powerful future. And we're seeing this today, to be honest. Like, this is, it's not something that's just a concept. The deployments of the technologies, Origin Trail DKG is now in its 6th iteration. These types of technologies are used. I think we've just put out today a mentioning of how the decentralized infrastructure provided by Origin Trail together with AI is powering always 40% of US imports by allowing them to have a more a safer, more secure system to exchange audit reports data on security, like for over 22,000 factories in overseas, especially in Asia, right? So this is not really just a conceptual. The verifiable internet is the concept, but it's also is getting implemented today, and we're going to see much more of it get implemented in the coming period, where we, again, going to your video, Jason, you did mention there paranets as well. So we're going to see that come to fruition. Paranets are literally the how of creating the incentivization of knowledge and putting and allowing for multiple communities or even individuals to come up with what they believe is a good topic, a good area of knowledge that they should go after and we should build out, and it can be really profitable as well to do it. So paranets are going to be a very interesting activity that's going to be playing out within the Origin Trail ecosystem in the coming period, because they will be the thing that engages a lot of communities. So basically what will be, and I'll just end on this bombshell, what will be going after is to enable anyone to do their own initial paranet offering. So you'll be able to go and define what it is where do you want to build your community around, and then we'll be able to incentivize everyone with the initial paranet offering to get on board and join you, either to support you by casting a vote with Neuro for your paranet, or by mining knowledge for you, or by being a part of your operator crew. So the IPOs are coming to Origin Trail, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. Okay, sorry, man, I took a bit of a longer step of this answer, and just wanted to set the frame of reference for this. But.
Yeah, appreciate that. I think we all appreciate that. And if anybody has any questions on the panel here, I know Alco and Jim, I know you're a big proponent of TRAC, follow them quite a bit. I don't know if you have anything for Tomas, but I think information provenance, as you mentioned, is a very interesting topic for what you mentioned, but also, copyrighted materials. How do you somebody produces a piece of art, how do we, link it? You have all these like making art based on art. How do you link it to the original one? So I think it's a really interesting topic and topic for this white paper.
Yeah. Well, the information provenance is one of the core principles of how you enable AI. And here, when we're talking AI, maybe just it might seem a little bit vague. So AI solutions can range from anything that's on your home computer helping you, I don't know, create a new research paper, to having a trading bot that can pick up knowledge from multiple sites and perform certain like bets for you in how someone sees something developing. Or it can be a very complex enterprise grade deployment of multiple models working together to ensure rail travel safety. So like all of these things are equally valuable if they are underpinned by trusted knowledge. And that trusted knowledge, to your point, needs to have that information provenance. Because if you don't have it, then not only will you not be able to trust it, but also every output is going to be less worthy. So if you're creating generative art and you want to create it on the basis of something that already exists, then your generated output is going to be more valuable if you can verifiably point that actually you paid that original artist the royalty to create your generative art. And there's a whole ecosystem of paranets that can develop around the fact that you can create business models on creating new knowledge on the basis of existing knowledge. And their information provenance is going to be the absolute key to enable that to happen. And AI is just going to allow you to do it en masse, right? So, and then really, I think we struggle a lot of times within the crypto space with interactions with our technology. And if you look with AI, what they did brilliantly, it's just so easy to use, man. You just log in, boom, you're there, you use it, it's easy to use. It operates this very complex neural network. But for you, it's a very, you put something in, you get something out. And the thing is, these AI agents or even solutions, they are well versed in using technologies like crypto. So that's why this convergence is so powerful. But we just need to do it the right way.
Yeah. Jim, I'll go to you. I think you were saying something.
For sure, yeah. Just to start, to say, Jason, thanks for having me on. And guys, nice to meet you all. Just to try and, I guess, touch on a few of the points that Thomas, that you started with. I think for me, I've been following Origin Trail now for many, many years. I think I originally got involved in 2017, 2018. And really, I think one of my jobs is to try and make TRAC easy to understand for most people, right? So the way I see it is it's sort of a foundational layer, really. It's almost the brain. So what it does essentially is it breathes life into machine intelligence in a way that improves accuracy and gives trust, which is key. So for me, as far as AI goes, essentially you are what you eat. And for AI, its favorite meal is a knowledge graph, which is what OT provides. So yeah, this for me is a really important part. It's also the perfect timing, for Origin Trail, I think, take center stage considering the current climate that we're in. As you mentioned, AI, infiltrates our lives like never before, and the advancements come thick and fast, so it's impossible to keep up with. But I think a quote from the white paper was around, there should be no compromise in designing AI solutions. And if we don't do it in an inclusive way, there's a societal threat of establishing a monopoly on AI, which I think is key. Thomas, you touched on paranets. So I have read through the white paper. I would like to read it again because there is a lot to it. I guess one of my questions for paranets is what is the driving force behind these paranets? Where did the idea for this come from? And what are some of the key benefits that they bring above and beyond the, in inverted commas, the standard DKG? Where did this idea come from?
It's nice to put a voice to the altcoin Jim Twitter or X now personality. I'll say that. It makes it a bit more personal, but I do appreciate, man, the effort, and I do follow your content as well.
Great, thank you.
The questions on point too. I'll say the paranets themselves. They are not. They're definitely a new thing, but they came from the behavior that we saw and the necessity that it creates. So if you look at the decentralized knowledge graph, even today there's that you have these clusters of knowledge appearing around certain topics or around certain ideas or around certain organizations. So the fact that the paranet kind of came to be, it was because of the activity that has already been identified before. So this is not something that just comes down, like Deus ex machina, and now it's like it was introduced. It's more of an evolving factor that the decentralized knowledge graph by definition today already is operating under some of its premises. What really gave paranets the possibility to exist in the shape that they will right now was the NeuroWeb. So NeuroWeb is the parachain on Polkadot, and in a way, it's a lot like any. So because the decentralized knowledge graph is its own network, it's a decentralized infrastructure. So the DePIN type of an layer. It can integrate with multiple blockchains. So it launched on Ethereum. Today it has on Gnosis, and it is on NeuroWeb. So in that way, NeuroWeb supports the DKG in a way that any other blockchain can. However, NeuroWeb has a very important distinction that it's designed to be the engine for knowledge creation. So it's there to be that driving force for humanity to decide on what knowledge we should be focusing on next. And this is something that is the trigger that it creates. It enables the initial Paranet offerings to come to fruition, because it will provide the engine of incentive, and as well the desire to use Neuro to guide the future growth of this decentralized knowledge graph. So in a way, like you can picture that TRAC, which is used within the decentralized knowledge graph, it's almost like you pay for electricity to mine that knowledge, and you're actually mining knowledge on the NeuroWeb. So NeuroWeb is that engine that will produce the relevant, trusted knowledge for artificial intelligence agents and solutions of the future, because it allows communities to gather around certain topics. So let's say we can roughly break down 3 groups of people which exist around the Paranet. So you will have the operator, which doesn't have to be one person. So this could be a DAO, it could be an organization, it could be a company, but someone is an operator who says, I'm very keen to see this topic get developed and have a lot of knowledge created around it, because I feel it's going to be very opportune for me to build out this knowledge, because I will be able to create solutions on top of it, because we're going to create a new ecosystem of solutions on top of the topic of, I don't know, trees, because I see them out of my window right now. So I know that I can design the perfect software for orchards management, and I want to have a lot of open, public, trusted knowledge about trees. So I'll just go and I'll start this Paranet on trees, and I'll try to describe how I want to have those incentives going. And then I will incentivize the NeuroWeb community. So everyone who holds on to their dear Neuro, they will vote and they'll say, you know what, trees are the shit. We're going to do a lot with trees in the future. And I believe I should take part in this, and I should be an active participant in this community. Go out, convince knowledge miners to get involved, convince the solutions to get built, because I can receive incentives because I was a part of that voting process. So I'll be the one that also benefits if more knowledge gets mined. And then there's the knowledge miners, which can be you going and finding the right knowledge and submitting it to the decentralized knowledge graph, or it could be an automated agent that you set up. So you could have artificial intelligence going around the internet, finding the best knowledge about trees and orchards and apples and whatever, and put it on as a relevant addition to that knowledge graph on your Paranet. And that way you have these different groups of people that are gathering, that are galvanizing around the particular Paranet, and that can happen simultaneously on endless amount of Paranets. So this is where really then the Neuro community comes in. Where will we see the best thing for humanity to get developed? Is it really trees, or is it something else? Is it Polkadot? Is it, it's your guess is as good as mine. This can be as kind of like a reasonably narrow or as reasonably wide as you can imagine it. So the Paranets are there's a few elements of very clearly, and we'll be releasing more information on that in the coming days, but you'll be receiving a very clearly identifiable tools that you can use. So this thing is very kind of like fixed and usable, but your imagination will be behind the steering wheel of where you will point it to. So I'm looking at Jim to come up with some good Paranet opportunities, and you'll find you between the first IPOers for sure.
I will try my absolute best. And thank you for your explanation. I guess a quick follow-on question from me is, because what I find really fascinating is the idea of deductive and inductive reasoning, and this whole notion of an autonomous DKG, it sounds like sci-fi fantasy to me. I just wondered can you give us some more information around what deductive and inductive reasoning are, how this might realistically play out? And then my first thoughts on that were, if we're autonomously mining this knowledge, how do we A, ensure that it's correct, and B, ensure it's the right quality of knowledge, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So if we go on the topic of deductive and inductive, and maybe it's a good start also to tie into your second question. Knowledge graphs are great because they're not just random data structures. All of them are connected, and these connections are meaningful. So you can give them, you can really allow them to tell the story. So if Jason's my dad and Jim's Jason's father, like these are connections between us. We have a family relations, right? But let's assume that only two connections will be currently present in the DKG. So only connection between Jason and me, as him being my father, and only the connection between Jim and Jason, that Jim is his father, but not between me and Jim. So the graph right now doesn't know that Jim is my grandfather. And if someone will be looking for grandfathers, this connection will not pop up. So Jim will be left out of this group of when someone makes that query to the knowledge graph. But because we can have on something that's called ontologies, which are also a key element of the paranets, the ontology is your way of speaking about a particular topic. And because our ontology will define that a father of a father is actually the grandfather, then we will able to have the autonomous agent go around, and this connection will be added in a deductive way because of the ontology. We will have an additional connection appear saying Jim is actually the grandfather of Tomasz. And then when someone will make the query, now you will pop up. So you will not be left out. And this is actually a deductive. There's no probabilistic moment in making that connection. It's purely on the basis of having the ontologies and having the capabilities of the knowledge graph technology that you can do that. And so you can populate graphs in much more complex ways, but deductively using ontologies all the time. So this is really something that, let's say, Netflix or Amazon or Google, they do it nonstop. So this is an ongoing thing of calling it reaching the knowledge graph. And the same thing can happen on a decentralized knowledge graph. So you can have agents that just go and they keep improving your knowledge graph with creating deductive connections. Now, we could also have inductive connections. Because we all post happy pictures whenever we are geographically close, the inductive thing from the agent would be that we're a happy family. So there's no way to deductively prove that, but there is a probabilistic jump that this is actually true. So you can have the same thing happen because we have context and because we have connected knowledge, that additional knowledge can be added, which is very likely true. But again, it can be annotated and explained why that decision was actually made. And that's another way of how you're autonomously growing the knowledge graph. So again, if we go more like pull out this concept to a bigger strength, by power of 10, more complex concepts can get solved by having artificial agents inductively perform activities over a decentralized knowledge graph. And this is actually also a part that leans into your second question, Jim, and that was on how do we basically create knowledge validation services. They are acting and they're using all these primitives, the ontology, the connectivity, the verifiability, the identity. All these primitives are used to determine whether a piece of information that is being added to the knowledge graph is relevant or not. Of course, there's no magic wand, but we can come pretty damn close to it if employing all these concepts. So when you do your Paranet, you can also decide and say, you know what, I'm Jim, and I'll have this is my knowledge validation tool, and I'll be using it to ensure that whatever you submit to my Paranet actually conforms to this to these frameworks that I've set out.
Fascinating, mind-blowing stuff.
It's really exciting. Yeah, thank you. I know we could talk more about AI probably for days, if not longer, but I do want to get, Tomasz, thank you. I do want to get to some of the other people. We had Betty joined us from Acala. Nice to have you on, Betty. But I did want to go over and talk with you, Alun, about LAOS Network as well. I think people, LAOS is a little bit of a newer project, but I think people know you guys, Universal Layer 1, digital assets, but maybe you can tell us, give us your version of what you guys are doing at LAOS and what's exciting.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jason, and thanks everyone else, and thanks for having me. It's great to be here. I really appreciate it. Yeah, one thing I'm particularly interested in right now is that we're looking. The price of Bitcoin is soaring, and people are saying that we're in another bull run. Whether it's going to last, how long it's going to last, but it certainly looks like we're out of the bear market for the time being, at least in the short term. And the question I often ask myself is that a good thing, right? It's good if you're a crypto holder, right? I'm as happy as anybody to see the value of my DOT having gone up, right? It's great. But if you're actually building something, maybe it's not such a good thing, right? So, for example, even during the bear market in the last year or two, a whole 20% of gas fees on many of the EVM chains, including Ethereum as the granddaddy, were spent on minting, right? So minting of assets, whether it's like, collectibles, NFT collectibles, or whether it's like tradable assets in games or stuff people are doing around real world assets. And that's quite a lot of money. And so when the price of ETH goes up, and even when the price of Matic and the price of any other places where people go generally to mint these things, that means as a builder, you're paying a lot more, right? And you're not necessarily doing it with the fastest or the best technology, right? Everyone knows that Ethereum is congested. Everyone knows that Ethereum is slow, and yet it is the granddaddy. It's seen as like the sort of the reference point frequently. And so people still want to go and mint there. And so is it possible with inverted commas, take this very much inverted commas, a pinch of salt, but better technology like, the Polkadot, the concept behind Polkadot, I'm a massive fan of and have been for a long time. Is it possible to somehow to offload that minting from those more mature systems, like Ethereum, for example, where and harness the power of Polkadot to do it, right? So basically reduce costs, right? So you can save gas fees for people who want to build things, while at the same time maintaining that link to those mature ecosystems for the people who want to build on places like Ethereum, places like on Polygon, and so on and so forth, and without having to force them to use let's say less decentralized approaches that you may see, like things like inscriptions or ordinals on Bitcoin or things like that. And so that kind of was one of the main motivations for us building LAOS. So we've been in, the company that's building LAOS is a company called Freeverse. We're a Spanish company. We've been around since 2019 at the intersection of sort of Web3 and gaming and stuff like that. We built layer 2. We've have clients for that layer 2 as well. And now we're building this layer 1, whose headline thing is basically linking the EVM ecosystem with the Polkadot system without using bridges, right? So the idea is that you can mint assets on Ethereum, right? Let's say, regular ERC-721s, like if you're creating the NFT collection, and you can mint those assets there on Ethereum. They appear in OpenSea. They're tradable in ETH on OpenSea, but the actual minting itself happens on the LAOS parachain, which is a parachain of Polkadot. And so we can do that thanks to some very clever Polkadot stuff with regarding to, XEMB3 and this thing called universal location, which proposes this idea of referring to different consensus systems in the same way that a web URL refers to different servers, right? So that's the whole concept of universal location. And if what we do is deploy a smart contract in the EVM chain of your choice, and using universal location, have that point towards the LAOS parachain on Polkadot. And that means the actual minting happens in LAOS, right? It's with LAOS token. And because LAOS is focused exclusively on minting assets, it makes it much, much cheaper, right? And so that's directly addressing, you're allowing people to build on these mature ecosystems whilst harnessing the power of Polkadot, and essentially offloading those 20% of gas fees that we saw in the last year or two on EVM, and bringing those to Polkadot, right, where it's a lot more scaled and a lot more powerful. But one thing I'm particularly interested in as well, and it refers to going back to the conversation that Tomasz was talking about earlier on about AI as well, is that universal location actually can go the other way, right, as well. So rather than just using universal location to mint assets in Ethereum and via Polkadot, if you like, we can actually do it the other way. We can use Polkadot's universal location to point towards any asset in any other blockchain and make a claim on that asset. So I'm sure many people here will be familiar with the concept of decentralized identity. The idea that I have an identity and other people can make a claim on my identity, and I can say whether that claim is true or not, right? So for example, right, I could say I'm a citizen of the world, and the Spanish government, I live in Spain, could make a claim on my identity to say that I'm resident in Spain, right? Fine. And I can choose to accept that or not. And with universal location, what we're doing with LAOS is that you can extend that to make a claim on any other assets, right? So in the world of verification of artificial intelligence, you have something generated by Midjourney or ChatGPT or stuff like that. You can actually make a claim to say, I claim that this is a verified asset, right? And it's not something that's been invented by an AI, for example. So I think this idea of harnessing these new ways of having different consensus systems to connect and speak to each other is actually a very good thing. And I think it's probably a good thing for builders because it allows them to build really interesting new decentralized applications without having to worry so much about paying the extortionate gas fees.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And also too, because we hear Bitcoin halving, and I think everybody anticipates, okay, Bitcoin's going to go up, but I'll repost this article that you were quoted in, I believe it's on Cointelegraph. They have a chart in there that actually shows 2020, the last halving we had, Ethereum actually saw more explosive growth post halving. And now that we have this news of the possible ETF coming, you have, it's already a deflationary currency. I think what you're saying is very true, that this price and these fees are going to be a big problem, that they already are a big problem. I guess my follow-up, it seems like a no-brainer what you guys are doing, but how is the adoption going? Like, how are people taking this? Are people coming? Are people liking it? Are people using it? How's that going?
Yeah, great question. So LAOS is still not in mainnet yet. So we're not a parachain on Polkadot yet. Actually, just today, we announced the fact that we're going to be doing a crowd loan. And so by the end of the week, we'll publish more details on the reward structure of that crowd loan. So for those of you who might be interested, please go and follow us at LAOS Network on Twitter and whatever to find or X, should I say, to find out the information about that. So we're in Kusama at the moment. And the token that we have in Kusama has no value. We've intentionally, put big disclaimers saying, this is a non-value token. We're using it as much as I like Kusama as a valid network, right? So we're treating it as a test network for the time being. And so you can go and if you go to laosnetwork.io, you can actually go and try out what we call the bridgeless minter. So you can create an asset on either Ethereum or Polygon, and grab some tokens from our faucets and test tokens from the faucet first. And I think, it will cost you 0.00007 LAOS tokens to mint an asset on Ethereum, which is then tradable in OpenSea, right? So the cost benefits are there. We've been really surprised and grateful by the growth in our community in the last month. If I was speaking to you a month ago, I would be embarrassed to say that we had like 200 followers on Twitter or like 400 followers on Twitter. And now we have 15,000, which is still small fry compared to the larger accounts, but it shows quite positive growth and interest. And as you say, it seems like a bit of a no-brainer. It's kind of not trivial to do technically. It requires some, you need to be able to make this stuff work. And fortunately, as I said, we have a very experienced technology team who've built various different blockchain things in the past, including a layer 2 and now a layer 1. But yes, we're very excited about to see that going, and we're very excited to be going for the crowd loan and going for maybe one of the last parachain auctions in Polkadot before we go to the core time, right? So we're interested to see how that'll go.
Good stuff. I appreciate that. Anybody have anything for Arun? Any questions, guys? We missed JD. I'll go back over to you if nobody has anything. Maybe we could just look at that TRAC token. We forgot to do the technical analysis. My mistake there. If you want to bring up your screen, put it up there.
Yep. Okay, you guys can see my screen?
Yeah, we got it.
Okay. So right now, you see both of these SRSI, these lines right here is going down. So bearish momentum is in the market right now. My target, my DCA target will be within this orange box here, and it also corresponds to the 21 weekly EMA, which smart money wants to play with. You see all these wicks down to the blue line, and they buy it up. So these in between here, I'm gonna start adding towards my long-term position. There's no resistance up here. I mean, if we shoot back up, if we break this line right here, it's price discovery. But right now, I'm currently not a buyer yet. I'll be I was buying down here, but then my next buying opportunity will be inside this orange box.
Appreciate it, JD. Cool. So Betty, we have Betty from Acala joining us now as well. So I appreciate you taking the time here. And I know you guys got a lot going on in Acala. And I know you guys are participating in a lot of the upcoming airdrops as well, which is pretty exciting. And we just saw, I believe it was this morning that they just took the snapshot for the dead token airdrop. So a lot is going on. Betty, maybe you can just give us a little bit of an update. What's happening at Acala right now? What do you guys see coming up in 2024? Maybe just a little bit roadmap stuff, things you guys got going on. Betty, not sure if you can hear me, or you might be on mute. Okay. Well, I'm not. Can anybody hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. So maybe we just don't have Betty on here. Sorry about that, guys. Oh, she's asking. Maybe she's having a little bit of a microphone issues. In any event, maybe we'll get here in a second. We're at about 45 minutes, guys. So I do appreciate everybody taking the time today. Oh, Betty, is that you?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can hear you. Thanks for joining.
Oh, sorry about that, guys. Thanks, Jason.
No problem.
Yeah, so I had a bit of audio setting problem. Yeah, appreciate having me here, and hi everybody. Yeah, so for Acala, we are Polkadot OG, as everyone knows. It's been quite a long journey for us, starting off, I think back in 2018-19 that we contributed to the substrate repository when it's still below version 1. So it's a long journey. And then I think as for any entrepreneur, when you have a vision, like when we had the vision with Polkadot, and as we build stuff, there's things we learn on the ground, and then you realize some things work, some things don't work as you expected, and then you pivot and then you build new stuff. So this is what we have been sort of been through in the last, I guess, less than 12 months, the last 10 months. From last June, we rolled out the Acala 2.0 roadmap, the Exodus upgrade, which was a big lesson learned from us, where we realized in a new architecture like Polkadot, where you have the hub and spoke, where you have multi-chain, the way that you actually build liquidity and also build usability is drastically different from when you had in the solo chain era, which is like when you, like 10 years ago, when you had Ethereum alone, or if you are in Solana, if you only have Solana, the way that you build things, bootstrap liquidity and build usability and acquire users are very, very different in a multi-chain architecture. And I think this becomes even more so a problem now when the Duncan upgrade in Ethereum, you not only will have L2, I think you will have a zillion L3s that were coming up in the coming sort of month and year. And one of the biggest challenges there, like as firsthand when we built these chains in this multi-chain world, is fragmentation. It basically fragmentates everything. It fragmentates, foremost important is the liquidity that, basically is the oil of every engine that runs not only blockchains, but also any economy that you are trying to build on top of it. And in addition to that, like if you fragment liquidity, the next thing you fragmentate is users, you fragmentate experiences. An example, like to see how significant that problem is when you were in solo chain Ethereum era, everything that you build on top of Ethereum actually adds up, right? So you build one protocol and the other protocol built on top of the previous protocol, your liquidity actually adds up on top of each other. You actually layered your economy to actually be able to bootstrap and also have users in one place and have that easy experience. Of course, the not easy part is the problem that all the multi-chain is trying to solve, right? Like the someone mentioned, gas fees and all that sort of stuff. So for us, then we realized that if we don't solve this problem, then this like cool technology that Polkadot is bringing out in this, XCM and multi-chain world is not going to go anywhere commercially and not going to be able to reach a lot more users. So then we pivot last year in the 2.0 is, we realized we have to step back because we have been building protocols and the full stack protocols that everybody else now is building, right? So everybody now is building, the stablecoin, the LSDs and the things on top of that. That's what we were building like 4 or 5 years ago. But then once we build those, then we realize it's actually a bootstrap problem that we have to step back and solve. And that's how we actually oriented ourselves to build a liquidity layer for Web3. They're basically trying to solve the problem of this fragmentation. And then if you want to use analogies, like now we have L1, L2, L3, maybe L4s later, we are wanting to build something like a LX that are like a LX for all the chains, that you can connect all the chains together so that liquidity are in one place, and the user experiences are solved at a fundamental level. And then we have completed the first stage of the building. So reporting back is, we've built a universal asset hub. We've built Euphrates, that is the liquidity application on top of the hub, so that you can acquire, liquidity in one place and aggregate them and then route them to the right sort of application, so that user can actually, as well as developers, can build and integrate liquidity in one place. So over the the last 10 months, we now have over 200 million TVLs on chain, and most of those, this is very important, most of those are productive and active dots, which was a huge challenge when the entire Polkadot and Parachain got started. Is majority of the dots are dormant, right? They're just sitting somewhere, maybe on exchanges, maybe on this passive staking, and none of those are sort of going around and being productive and supporting the economies on Polkadot to be able to support more innovations, more users, more developers to do stuff, build stuff, and make things interesting. So through the the last 10 months with this 2.0 coming out, we were able to acquire a lot of the active dot users with that 200 million dot on chain, majority of them. And we are still in a bear market, right? So someone mentioned we're just entering into the bull market. So imagine how that would look like if we are doing a true bull market. So we've done the first stage. We're setting up some infrastructure for that to go to the next stage. And then in the sort of the next phase for us, we're about to release a new upgrade plan, probably later this week. So I guess I'm actually doing a pre-announcement here for what is new. So we are releasing a Acala Sinai upgrade. And in part of that roadmap is basically going beyond the last Exodus upgrade to basically provide various dApp and liquidity enablers so that we can take this liquidity layer to further across not just Polkadot, but beyond Polkadot to other ecosystems as well. So things that we include is one-click multi-chain cross-stack DeFi. So this is one thing we have been relatively quietly building for a while, where technically we are able to deliver sort of bridging experience, both XCM as well as beyond XCM to the multi-chain, like your L1, L2, and L3s integration to enable like a one-click cross-chain experience for any EVM, substrate, and other stack if once they are integrated for the dApps to use this experience to provide for their users. And this cross-chain experience will also empower like a more fancy sort of experience, like you can do one-click arbitrary state change cross-chain transaction. So things like scenarios like you can do one-click cross-chain staking. You can do one-click cross-chain liquidity provisioning. You can do one-click cross-chain lending without actually feeling like going to another chain doing anything. So you can basically some other chain can use this integration and they can actually enable this experience. And that will actually make, from a liquidity as well as from an experience perspective, you provided this sort of virtual liquidity layer for both developers and users. And then the next thing is, once we have this enablers, then integrating other ecosystems like Ethereum, Solana, and other L2, like select L2 chains will be the next on the pipeline to bring their LSTs on chain. So we have in the past sort of 10 months, we have about 7 million DOT going through our Euphrates liquidity app for boosted staking, right? So they are mostly like LSTs. So it's proven like this actually works really, really well. And then so we will do the expansion to the multi-chain ecosystem and providing that better experience across those ecosystems. And then on top of that, there's a couple of infrastructure sort of things I will highlight is one is we are also building sort of cross-chain security because that's one thing I think as we marching into even more sort of diverse multi-chain environment, different chains have different security levels and also different chains have different sort of consensus. It does raise a lot of questions on right now the bridges are homogeneous, which means you're treating each other exactly the same. So this is like if you are a nation, just think about a chain as a nation. When you're doing this foreign trade, are you treating your trading partner exactly the same? Or you based on their sort of security level, their trust level, their liquidity level, you may have different foreign trade policies. So for example, maybe you are trading with the more trusted partners, then the quota of import and export or the asset transfers are higher versus then maybe just a brand new chain that comes up, you may not want a similar level of trust to go across with those chains. So the first sort of release, so we have this called Sentinel as an XCM palette that will be delivered. The first sort of version will be very simply to enhance cross-chain asset transfer security that you can actually configure. There's a configurable rate limiting that you can set for yourself with any other chains that you are communicating with. And then that sort of increases security level. And then further down the track, and there will be sort of automated sort of rate limiting and then other things that you can add on top of. Think about them like foreign trade policies that you can add on to the Sentinel that it will constantly sort of monitoring and also executing these policies in a cross-chain environment. I mean, if anything happen on one chain, like incident happens on one chain, this will provide as a vanguard and also as a way to, one is limiting the impact for it to spread across multi-chains. And another is for the chains that had incident have enough sort of time and leeway to respond potentially on-chain. Of course, majority are off-chain response to these incidents. So I think that is a very cool thing that we'll be rolling out, and other chains can also benefit from sort of installing this XCM sort of pallets as we build it. And then another thing that we are also looking at, although not like the main part of our roadmap, but a very important part, is something to do with what's coming next for Polkadot. And Polkadot, well, Gavin has just talked about this, but he's been thinking about this for a long time, and we've been in discussions with him, is this jam chain that I think is just coming out. And then from our perspective, this is actually a layer 0 architectural upgrade or revamp that is able to resolve liquidity, chain, and user fragmentation problem that we are very much care about. And this is highly aligned with our 2.0 vision to build a liquidity layer. This is an architectural support. So we are doing research work, and we will be contributing to the jam sort of construction and building. I think this is the coolest thing that is going to happen next for Polkadot. It may not happen in the next 3 months, to be fair, but once this is released and people can actually build on this jam chain, it's basically you will have all the benefits of sharding, which actually is solving all the existing solo chain problem with capacity, throughput, and things like that. But at the same time, you have none of those sharding problems, which is like fragmentation and then breaking usabilities. You have to jump through multiple sort of places to actually get your token staked. For example, at the moment, if you actually do sort of playing around in DeFi in Ethereum, going to layer 2, it is a challenge even for an OG, right? So I think with Jam Chain, this is actually bring everything together, of course, virtually, right? Because physically you still shard to provide those capacity, but virtually you are actually in one place doing all your trades, doing all your staking, and doing all the things that you want to do together with that unified user experience, as well as liquidity, which is at the core of all of this. So this is going to be really, really cool. Once it's delivered, and we'll definitely be part of that to contribute, and also building stuff on top of it, providing jam services and connecting that to Acala and things like that. So so there's a lot more on the roadmap, but I will say that much before I go into airdrops, because you mentioned there are upcoming airdrops for Polkadot users. There are a number of those. I think one of them is called Pink. And the other is DED, and there is also InfVatch. I think there's a new one that are coming up, and there's others I think is in the pipeline that might be dropping in the future. For Pink, I think that is actually is a broader audience, that anyone who's participating in any of the Acala activities, like if you own an NFT, if you have ACA staked, or DOT or LDOT staked, or if you've used Euphorids for staking or anything like that, you get a Pink airdrop. And then there's also DED airdrop. And so, and then that's for mostly, I think, DOT holders doing LDOT staking and things like that. And similarly for VARC or InfVarc airdrop, as well as for LDOT stakers. There's probably others that are coming up, but once they're confirmed, we can tell people about that. So that's it. So stay tuned. Follow our Twitter, so don't miss out the airdrops upcoming.
Betty, thank you so much, and I appreciate you bringing up the Jam Chain as well. And I think that may be the topic of the next live stream or a future live stream. As we get more information, I know a lot of people are interested, so maybe we can reach out to you and have you back on to talk more about that on a future live stream. But I appreciate that. So I guess we've gone a little bit long today, so I thank you everybody for coming on. It's nice to see, what I'm taking from this is we're improving the UX, the user experience. It's nice to see a lot of these projects are starting to integrate with one another, whether it's just by necessity or happenstance or whatever it is. It's nice to see the ecosystem kind of becoming a little bit more interconnected and using some of the applications that the others provide. So I think that's really nice. JD, maybe we'll finish off with you if you want to just show us quick your thoughts on Acala, and if you want to share your screen, put it up there.
Yep. Okay. So hold on. Let me. All right. So here's Acala right here. So last week I was pointing to this take some profit at 22 cents right here, and we actually wicked up and then started to go down. So looks like smart money was taking a little bit of profit up here, and then so for the RSI, the bearish divergence on the RSI got negated after closing above the 73, creating this next higher high. But for the SRSI, right, it's still creating the oscillator is going down while the price is still going up. So this is a possible bearish a divergence on here. So my current price levels that I'm gonna start maybe adding into my position is around this orange box right here. And this also corresponds to the 21 weekly EMA, which is this blue line right here. But it looks like smart money was taking profits on this resistance line right here that I was pointing to last week.
Appreciate that, sir. All right. Thank you, guys. JD, obviously, always. Alun, thank you so much. Tomas, Betty, thank you, guys. Really appreciate your time today. I think this was a great stream. I think people really enjoyed it. So I'll be reaching out to you guys again. Hopefully, we can connect again. Next week, I'm putting out a video on Polymech and also on Lastic. So really interesting stuff going on throughout the whole ecosystem, guys. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you next Monday. Thank you, guys so